got to the point where I realised I wasn't happy or excited to wake up and go to training. I wasn't excited to go travelling. It felt like a chore.
If you just go out there and remember, why am I playing? It's for fun. And you just play so much better. I think there needs to be more emphasis on stripping everything back to fun still.
I finished the final, went up to the stands and Mum was there and I burst into tears and I was just like, I don't want to go. Just broke down, and that was the last game of hockey I played.
Welcome to 4TG. Georgia Nanscawen, welcome to the 4TG podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited for this chat, and as I always say, I say that about every chat, but I've been following your footy journey for a while now, and it was only when I got you on the podcast and I started to do some research that I realised you've had a whole other life before footy.
Yeah.
Pretty well decorated one too.
Yeah, no, very fortunate to have a dual sporting life. So yeah, hockey was my first love, and then a latecomer to footy. So no, I still feel like I'm a very young football player. So I might not be young in age. I say I'm a young football player.
Yeah, it's just a number. Now you are a modest person, so I'll do some spruiking for you. So for those who don't know, you were a hockey roo at the age of 17, one day after your birthday.
Yeah, debuted, yep.
And got a goal on debut.
I did, yeah. Didn't score too many, but one on debut was, yeah.
You played 205 games for the Hockey Roos, and you were the youngest female hockey player for Australia to reach 100 and 150 caps. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Damn, that's pretty impressive. You also played in the London Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, and just about everywhere else, didn't you? You had a pretty good career in terms of travel and playing different competitions.
Yeah, yep, got to travel around a bit, which, got to see a lot of the world, mainly hockey pitches and hotel rooms, but no, very...
Who had the best hockey pitch?
We went to Argentina a lot. They were a big hockey nation. Not necessarily the best pitch, but the best atmosphere, I think, like lots of fanatical fans. So it was the one place as a hockey player you sort of felt like you were like a little bit of a celebrity, which was cool.
You're a celebrity here as well, aren't you? And that leads to the last thing, that you're now one of the best AFLW players, known for your work rate and your tackle pressure.
Oh, well, that's very generous, but thank you.
So the real question is, how have you fit all of that in within 33 short years?
I like that you say 33 short years. Yeah, well, I mean, hockey kicked off at a very young age. So I've been, a sports person all my life. My mum was a hockey player, still plays hockey. Dad was a cricket player, and pretty much from the moment I was born, I was down at mum's trainings with a stick in hand. She always said that she was glad I wasn't born a boy because I would have played football straight away. And I think it's something she still struggles a little bit with, of like when I'm going in for crashing through, and kicked off at a young age. And as you touched on, got my sort of start with the Hockey Roos at 16, 17.
So what did the journey look like to get to the Hockey Roos? Obviously, you played hockey, and you also, these are actually my favourite stats of yours that probably aren't as well known, but at age 13, you were the first girl to win an Essendon Hockey Club Boys Best and Fairest, and you're also the first girl to captain the Boys Shield team. So obviously you played a fair bit of your early hockey career with the boys and dominated there. Yeah,
so I started in the under 9s, which was mixed at 5 years old, and then progressed through under 11s, 13s, 15s, and played with the boys right up until then. And I still think that was probably one of the best things for my development as an athlete and a hockey player, was playing in the boys competition. There were a couple of girls on the team, but it was a great standard, and certainly ignited that competitiveness in me. So it was good fun, and it's a nice little claim to have beaten them on a couple of occasions. So rocked the headband and the hair out, which I've circled back to in my football days now. But certainly a really crucial part of my development.
Yeah. And then, so did you always want to play for Australia? Was that always a goal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a pretty driven person, and And I think from the moment I sort of picked up the stick, it was like, all right, what's the goal? And I think I always said that I wanted to play for Australia and go to an Olympics. And I was pretty focused and committed to doing that, but progressed through the junior ranks, and then you start making the state teams at, I think 11 was my first one for Victoria, and progressed through those ranks. And when I was 15, 16, trialled for the Victorian senior team for a bit of experience and managed to make that team, and at 16 and played in my first senior Victorian tournament. And from that, much to my shock and surprise, got picked up in the Hockey Roos, which was, I still remember. I found out I was on the tram. I think I was going from Melbourne, meeting mum at Melbourne Central. Got the email came through, or a text or whatever it was, and that I'd made the team. And it was just one of those completely surreal moments. Like, it was certainly not the expectation, particularly whilst that was always the goal, like to have achieved it at the age of 16, year 11, high school. It was just one of those kind of surreal moments. I ran off the tram, nearly got hit by a car.
I hope you tapped off.
So no, I think I was in the free tram zone. Ran over to mum, burst into tears, and finally got out the words that I've been selected in the Hockey Roos. So it was just this whirlwind, kind of period. And the team for hockey, the AIS is based in Perth. So I was in year 11 at the time. So there were chats with the coach and, what does this look like? And he said pretty early on, I remember he sat down with my parents and myself in a cafe in North Melbourne and said, you're not going to make a lot of money from playing hockey. So finish school and make sure you're still studying, but we'll get you over for travel and whatnot as well. So throughout my sort of year 11, 12, travelled with the Hockey Roos, and missed 13 weeks of year 11 and 14 weeks of year 12, and took all my books with me, and whilst competing for Australia, which was quite a surreal experience.
Absolutely. And at that age, at 17, where that's sort of an age where you're trying to find out who you are, what you want to do with your life. So to have that, playing for Australia, trying to finish school on top of that, it must have been a lot on your plate.
Yeah, it was. Always very thankful for my parents and how lucky I am with, for them and their support, because, I didn't have much time to do much else between traveling and studying, and they looked after me so well. It was a bit of a shock to the system when I moved to Perth at 18, because mum I'd never cooked a meal and never washed done a load of laundry. So their support and helping me get through that as well. But it certainly taught me a lot in time management and organisation, and probably skills that I've carried on, I guess, through my adult life.
So to get up and move to Perth at 18, did they send you over, and did they put you up in a house and everything, or did you have to still continue working part-time? What was the story there?
So the agreement kind of was, like, once I finished school that I'd move over. So fortunately had a couple of years to kind of prep for that, that was going to be the case. I was very lucky to initially move in with one of my teammates and her family, who are still my Perth family to this day, and very grateful for them, because, as I said, I was probably pretty useless in life skills. So to go over, and obviously Perth, it's not close. So to move over and to move in with a family was probably the best thing that I could have done, and lived with them for a year, and then and then ended up moving out and moving in with housemates and sort of becoming a bit more of a competent adult. But it taught me to grow up quickly. And at that stage, I had started a graphic design course at uni over in Perth, but we then hit 2012, which was Olympic year, and essentially you have to put all study and work on hold and become a full-time athlete. So I was a full-time hockey player and continued to be for most of my time in Perth. So fully lived the athlete life, which was basically go train and then go home and nap because I was so exhausted a lot of the time.
I bet. So how did that look day to day? Did you go training and you train for most of the day and then you travel on weekends, competitions? What was the sort of day to day?
Yeah, you'd have competition blocks throughout the year, but our sort of day to day life in Perth was, we trained most days. I think it was 6 days a week. There'd often be 2 sessions a day, like a training in the morning and a gym in the afternoon. So it wasn't particularly conducive to a work training balance. Whilst they sort of encouraged to do things, it was hard to fit it in. For me it was, I just lived, I guess, the athlete life, and then we would hit competition blocks where you would travel overseas for 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time and compete, and then come back to Perth and get back into the training regime.
Deja vu.
Yeah,
and how did you find the shift from obviously living with your parents, being, I bet, the poster girl at your school who's playing for Australia, and then going to Perth? I assume your teammates would have been a bit older than you if you were the 17-year-old young whippersnapper. How did you find that sort of transition? I was
one of the youngest, and within the year we sort of got a couple of other young girls in, but I guess I'd always been used to playing as a young player in a team. I played senior women's hockey from like 13, 14. I actually played with my mum, in her women's team when I was around that age. So I'd always been used to playing and being around, I guess, older players. And I think I was probably a bit of an old head, so I think in that regard I guess I fit in quite well, and certainly had a lot of role models around me to learn off. I still think that moving in with a family and whatever set me up fantastically and set the tone for that time living in Perth. But it's a bit of a weird now that I'm the old one at footy, and I'm seeing the young kids come through, and I'm like, I used to be like,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you can empathise better than anyone then, I guess.
Yeah. Things have changed a fair bit. I think there no TikTok around when I was coming. No social media actually. I didn't have Facebook until I finished year 12, and there was no Instagram. So life's certainly changed a fair bit from back when I started.
God, that's the way to go though, isn't it? I feel sorry for girls these days with the social media and pressures that they must constantly have to be facing. So those are the good old days. So tell us now, we all want to know, obviously, how were the Olympics? That's everyone's dream, to get to the Olympics. So how was it to get there? What was selection like? And then once you were there, tell us about the Olympic Village and all the cool stuff.
Yeah, so that's, as I said, that was, and as you've touched on, that's the dream for many athletes, is to play in an Olympics. That's the pinnacle of sport. And I guess I was maybe a little bit naive to the process. I was 21 at the time, and it was kind of just the way things were. Like we trained, we competed, and knowing the Olympics are coming up, and I had a bit of a purple patch just personally with the lead up, and as a forward scored lots of goals and was just in a good vein of form, and was fortunate enough to be selected in the team. 4 years later, I was on the other end of it and wasn't. But for 2012, 21 going over to the Olympics was just one of those dream come true moments. It's a completely different world. You're in your own village. It's with just athletes, like the pinnacle of every sport. You go into the food hall, which is couple of warehouses big of just everything you could possibly want, including McDonald's, which is funny to observe the line get longer and longer as the 2 weeks go on, because that's kind of everyone's thing. You finish competition, you go order 100 McNuggets. So it was just one of those, as I said, dream come true moments. We played New Zealand in our first game, and just lining up and singing the national anthem, like, how so proud to be there. And we unfortunately didn't perform. We were a pretty young team going into that Olympics, and we just missed out on the medal rounds, and ended up finishing 5th, which when you have 4 years leading up to one moment, like, it's still something that sits with you of, like, it's almost hard to, and it's bad to say, but appreciate having gone to the Olympics, because ultimately you didn't achieve the goal that you wanted to in winning a medal or winning a gold medal. But as time goes on and you reflect, and it's like, that was a pretty wonderful achievement. And to not have had that again, like missing out in 4 years at Rio, I think again makes you more grateful for that experience, to say that I achieved that.
That's right. So then fast forwarding forward 4 years, and you say that you're on the other end of selection. So tell us a little bit about, obviously 4 years is a long time to train, to compete, to be at the top of your form. So tell us about the journey up to the next Olympics, and then what sort of happened there and how it felt to be on the other end.
Yeah. So you say 4 years, within that time, we'd had, a Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, which we won gold at. We came second at the World Cup in the same year. We, as a team, we were performing really well. We'd risen up to second in the world, and we're having a really good patch. And then so 2016 came around, and it wasn't like I was playing badly, but people were probably playing better than I was. And the Olympics is the one tournament where selection goes from 18 to 16. So it's the only tournament for hockey that was the case. So we'd played in a tournament, like a pre-Olympic warm-up tournament in London, and selection followed that. And I basically knew deep down that I wouldn't be picked. And so it turns out I was picked as a reserve. So they travelled with 3 travelling reserves who could be called upon if there was an injury during the tournament. I still sort of look back on that time as probably one of the most challenging times that I've been through. By that stage, I was one of the almost more senior members of the team. I've played 180 caps, and then to miss out, and then to go over and still know that you're kind of in with a chance of playing, but probably not, but still be ready. It was this really, a bit of a mind, it was very tough. We didn't stay in the village. We stayed at an Airbnb down the road in Rio. So it was dodgy as all hell. And we stayed with one of our staff members, and then the 2 other girls that were also reserves. And we just we grew really close, because it was like we were in that sort of together, and we called ourselves the Little Wins crew. And I actually then got that tattooed on my wrist, because it was just like, we recognize this is a really hard time, but what are the little wins that we can take out of this? And it was every time we snuck into an event for free, or got a piece of uniform, or like had an experience or whatever, like that was our little win. So no, it was a weird experience. I've sort of spoken about it before, like, and any athlete that's not part of a team, whether it's through non-selection or injury, you watch on and you want them to perform, but you kind of also don't. Like, it's hard to admit, but I think everyone goes through that.
Absolutely. It's like your competition is your own team.
It is. And then you sort of, you watch and you're like, well, if you don't perform, like, would you have done better if I was there? You know, would I have made a difference? Like, you kind of watch on with jealousy, but then they're also your friends and the people that you've experienced, you know, all the highs and lows with, and you want them to do well as well. Like, you know, it's really weird position to be in, but you know, I certainly look back on that time, and again, it's one of those things that's taught me not to take things for granted. Like, you know, in all honesty, when I was 21 and played in London, I thought we didn't perform, but I thought I'd get another chance at winning an Olympic medal, and ultimately I didn't. And so I think really taught me to not take anything for granted and appreciate it when you're in that moment.
So when you started, obviously you were 17 and then you were 21 when you played the Olympics. So you'd almost think that you'll be coming into your prime at around that 24. So that would have also been hard to deal with. And
that's what I was like told for a long time. Like, you're sort of about to hit your prime, like those 24, 25 like years. Like, this is when you should be at your best. And so it's, you go through a whole lot of range of emotions. And I think when I was 21, I was really lucky that things kind of fell my way. And obviously I worked extremely hard too, but it kind of like all happened. And then I was, a few years later, I was on the other end of it. And it's, you go through a lot of, a range of emotions. And
did they say why? Like, did you feel yourself that you were falling out of form, or was it just that other girls were getting better?
It was a little bit. I was probably there were other girls that were performing better in my position. It was probably, as I said, I had a little purple patch leading up to London. There were other girls going through that same sort of purple patch leading up to Rio, and that was, I guess, the feedback was, it's not necessarily you doing anything wrong. It's probably other people just performing better. And I certainly went through a little bit of a shift where I felt that I wasn't in favour with a lot of these selections, even in the lead up to the tournament, which, I remember that pre-Olympic tournament that we played in London, the stress and pressure I was putting on myself, knowing that was the selection for Rio, and being a forward, like knowing I needed to score goals and I didn't. And I've never felt so much like pressure weigh on me throughout that period. But again, it's one of those experiences you go through as an athlete, and it's probably something that's helped me, looking back on it now, how to deal with those really high stress moments.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a self-perpetuating cycle, isn't it? Because you want to perform better, and by that, the pressure, you don't perform, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, completely right. And that's exactly how it was. Like, it just cycled, and I always played my best when I was either really free and just happy, or I had a really big point to prove, which I've been through that as well. But it just weighed on me so much that I was never going to play my best because I was so anxious and stressed about performing. It's one of those cycles that athletes experience.
What emotional toll did that have on you outside of hockey then?
It wouldn't have been a good one. I probably haven't ever really spoken to my housemates at the time about how I was, but I probably wasn't good. My parents were still in Melbourne, and they were only sort of speaking to me or seeing me from afar. But it certainly would have affected, my life outside of hockey. It's all so consuming. I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything else other than playing hockey. Like, that is the pure goal. And there's so much put into it. And at the same time, like, we were going through a really sort of tough period with like our eating and body image and all those sort of things as well. It was such a big focus leading into to that Olympics. So I remember sitting down again at this pre-Olympic tournament after the tournament, and it was kind of the coach was talking about Rio and what we need to do to prepare for that. And essentially we were told to stop eating carbs and bread and pasta and sugar and anything that wasn't vegetables, meat and salad, basically. And the stubborn person I am was like, okay, fine. Like, I won't eat any of that until Rio ends. Like either I'm not selected or like until the end of the Olympics. And I didn't. And that was a month or so, couple of months out from the Olympics. And I stopped eating like everything. And I love my food. So like that wouldn't have helped with my emotional like well-being outside of it. But yeah, it was just this really damaging sort of culture amongst the group. Yeah, we were in the years leading up as well, but we were skinfold tested every 6 weeks. And I remember sitting like, again, just the anxiety that led up to those tests every 6 weeks. We did a beep test and a skinfold test, and we had standards that were introduced around our fitness testing where if you didn't hit a minimum, you weren't considered for selection. So just the anxiety that led up to that, and then particularly around the skinfolds, like you were just so conscious of even going in on the day, like don't eat anything big the morning of the night before, don't drink like, and it was just, I look back on that sort of now and how damaging that was. And I remember coming back after a Christmas in which I'd said no to all the desserts and sweets over like at family Christmas, and I came back and I was like up a few skinfolds, and we were sat in a circle, the ones that had gone up a little bit, and like told that we were, that was a sign of us not being disciplined enough. And like I just look back on it now, and like I still have, it took me many years to get over those kind of things. And even now, like, and I'm really grateful that I can't speak for other clubs, but at Essendon, like the messaging now is, you're an athlete, you need to eat more, like you're not eating enough, like you need to fuel. And it's really hard to retrain your brain when for so many years we were told, don't eat. So yeah, it's certainly been a challenge. So very long-winded answers to you. How was my emotional state at that time? Probably not good.
They told me no carbs, I'd be not good.
Yeah. Yeah. So
isn't it amazing though, like even just what you're saying now, how far we've come in those 10 years or so, especially around body image and things like that. But now we're being told, as you say, eat more, we need to fuel more. And it is such an issue with athletes because, again, generally we're quite type A. We like to control things. And if we can't control things like maybe selection, which is out of our control, we like to control other things. And that can be in how much we train, how much we eat, because we can control that. So I feel as though athletes are especially susceptible to issues with around eating. And that can just come from all that pressure that you've been talking about. Pressure
and guided messaging, and like, yeah, as you say, athletes often take things so literally too. Like it's just such a slippery slope when someone says something, don't do this, or don't, you should be doing this, how we can take it and run with it. So yeah, it's I agree. I think unfortunately a lot of sports have had similar sort of, it's not an uncommon thing to hear when you talk about athletes and talk to athletes from other sports. But yeah, I do think the messaging is changing in a good way.
And these were dietitians that were telling you this too, right?
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't the dietitian. It was it was probably it was coaching staff, which again, it's it's that sort of misinformed sort of messaging. In the end, they're the ones that are selecting the team, and you want to do everything possible to
please them. Yeah. Wow. So obviously that was all consuming, and I assume that you sort of fell out of love with hockey then as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Probably had been building for a little while, and all these other factors probably contributed to that. So 2016 Olympics came and went, and that was fine. No, it wasn't fine, but that was what it was. And then we played sort of our national championship. So I went back and played for Victoria. Had a really good tournament. One player of the tournament, had a great time playing for Victoria. Again, a little bit less pressure. Just go and have fun. So that was great. And then sort of cycled round to 2017. Felt that we had a change of coach after Rio. So again, an opportunity to sort of start afresh a little bit. But just found that probably a little bit of the damage had been done in the year or so building, and just found that love that I had for so many years of my life, that hockey was the love that had diminished, and got to the point where I realized I wasn't happy or excited to wake up and go to training. I wasn't excited to go traveling. It felt like a chore. That year was actually the first year that I'd worked as well as playing hockey. I worked in a bakery, waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go bake, but realised that I was more excited and happier on those mornings that I could go to work. It kind of came to a head again, we'd come around again to our national championships where I was playing for Victoria, and it was over in Perth actually, and Mum had flown over to watch the tournament, and we had a hockey ruse tournament basically leaving the next day following this national championships. And initially I wasn't selected in the team, but there were a few injuries, and I kind of got an extremely late call up basically the day before, just before we played in the final of the national championships. There was a bit of a miscommunication. I got an email saying I was heading on the plane the next day and hadn't found out from the coach, and whatever. It was all a bit of a mess up. Anyway, played the final for Victoria, won the final, should have been obviously very happy, but had this massive build up of anxiety that I had to go travelling the next day with the hockey ruse. And I finished the final, went up to the stands, and Mum was there, and I burst into tears, and I was just like, I don't want to go. I just broke down, and that was the last game of hockey I played, and I'm still grateful that my final moment was scoring a goal with 11 seconds left to equalise the game, and then we won. But it was that was it. I broke down to Mum, and for a while it had been building this anxiety and stress around playing hockey, and then that expectation that I'm a hockey player, that's how I thought my family, my friends, everyone knew me. What do I do if I'm not this? And being honest with myself and confronting that, I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to travel. I didn't. I had spoke to our high performance manager at the time. They were like, okay, you don't have to go. That's fine. And so, that was it. I took a sort of indefinite break from hockey, had a few weeks of seeing the team psychologist just to sort of work through everything. They said, look, don't make any big decisions right now. Don't retire or anything. It's hard to kind of come back from that, but just take some time away and see how you feel. And I realized that I was the weight had lifted from my shoulders, and not going to training was, I just felt so free and happy. And I think it was a pretty clear sign that I was ready to move on.
Yeah. And how did your family and friends take it? Because obviously you do think that you're almost letting them down as well, but I'm sure that they were just as relieved.
Oh, that was 100%. I thought that, exactly. I would be letting them down to say that I didn't want to do this anymore. But, again, I'm so appreciative for them and their support. And ultimately, in the end, like, they just want me to be happy. And I think it was extremely hard on them, particularly from afar, seeing that I was really struggling and probably not knowing really the full extent of it all too. But then, for it all to kind of come to a head, and then, they were all incredibly supportive and said, don't do it. If it's not making you happy, like, stop. So, it was just a huge weight off the shoulders, and probably a long time coming, but glad that I got to that point, I guess, in the end, as hard as it was.
Yeah. And it's always scary, even athlete, career, anything, to end something and try and rebuild yourself, especially if you've grown up your whole life being a hockey player. It's hard to separate your identity.
Yeah.
So it's like, who's Georgia after hockey?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, newsflash, she becomes an AFL Sips.
Yeah, well.
So what did that transition look like after hockey? Did you just not do any sport for a long time so you can sit and think about everything, or was it sort of a seamless transition into footy?
Yeah, so first thing to do was book a holiday. I went away with my partner at the time to Canada and had a 4-week sort of holiday, which was like the first big non-hockey related thing, and I could go and I can eat whatever I want and do whatever I want kind of thing. So that was the first bit. And then pretty quickly after that, like I was still a competitive person. Like I still loved sport. I'd always loved kicking a footy at school. Poor dad's back has probably never recovered from me specking him with a balloon when I was like 3. But it was an opportunity to not be, I guess, bound by like the strict rules of an elite sports program, and I can kind of go do what I want now. So I was over in Perth, still living there, and just basically signed up to like the local football team, which was Swan Districts in Perth, and they had a number of AFLW players that played for them, and I had reached out to one of them and said, can I come down and have a run around? And the expectation going in wasn't to go try to play AFLW or anything. Like, it wasn't, I'm jumping ship to play AFLW. It was, I want to go play sport because I want to enjoy sport again. I just want to have a bit of fun. So I signed up. I went to their trainings. It was like the vibe shift between like what I'd come from to a local football club was just like it was so different. I couldn't believe it. Like, even first training and everyone's high-fiving, and it's just like we didn't do this in hockey. Like, what is it? It was great. And so I was committed to sort of playing just club football, and around about the same time, before I'd sort of even started that season, as was the way of things at the time, the North Melbourne AFLW recruiter, so North were about to come into the league in 2019, slid into my DMs on Facebook and said, hey, any chance you're interested in coming to play AFLW? And it was kind of a bit out of the blue. I hadn't made public or anything that I was going to go play local football. It was just, I think, a bit of the coincidence of like they were looking for cross-code athletes at the time. I think probably found out that I'd stopped playing hockey. What are the chances? So I flew back to Melbourne for a little trial, like not even a trial, just an interview with them. And they basically signed me.
Wow. Have you played many games by then? Or?
I hadn't. I don't think they'd seen me do anything really. It was kind of like one of those take a chance like on someone type thing. And then I played that season in Perth, but was already sort of committed to going to North. And by that stage, a few other clubs had kind of caught wind and then put a few like late offers in. But I'm a pretty loyal person. Like, once I'd sort of had those chats with North Melbourne, I was like, okay, we'll do this. And coincidentally, my parents lived a K from Arden Street. So it was like, this is perfect. Like, I get to come back to Melbourne. Why not? So signed with North Melbourne for their first season, and that was the start of my football career.
What do you think is the biggest thing that you learned stepping into a new sport as an adult than when you were playing hockey as a younger 17, 24-year-old?
It probably wasn't so much what I learned, but I think just what I took into football. Like football was still, and I guess in a way still is building, but it was very much in its infancy and like professionalism and having come from, an elite Olympic program into another sport that's just sort of taking off, and how I could bring those standards into that program. And whilst my football skills weren't going to be as good as many of the others, there it was like, I know I can bring this professional work rate and all these kind of things that maybe you're lacking a little bit in this program. So that was what I tried to bring.
Yeah. And did you find that when you were back in this professional environment, did any of those anxieties creep back in?
Like it did. It then sort of came to selection and all those sort of things, and I didn't have many expectations because it was like I haven't played football. I know I'm new here, and North recruited incredibly strongly in that first year, and many of the girls that they recruited in that first year are still there today in their all-conquering team. So I knew that it was going to be a battle, but I could like work as hard as I could. But I wasn't hugely in favour. Despite everything I did, like I played 2 games with minimal game time as a small forward. Certainly hit the confidence again, so a lot of those and the expectations I had on myself and all these things certainly crept back in. And then got delisted at the end of that season, which ultimately wasn't a shock. And then I sort of reflected and I was like, well, why am I playing football? What was the reason why I came into this? And it was because I wanted to go have fun again. I reached out to one of the girls that I'd played with at Swan Districts, Courtney Ugle, who was playing with Essendon VFL at the time. And I just messaged her and I said, what's Essendon VFL like? Because I did not want to play football again. I'm like, I want to go have fun, which was the whole purpose. Yeah. And she said, "I'll come down to training." His coach's number, so went down to Essendon VFL, that sort of kickstarted things, and I guess contribute to where I am now. But
dominated that first season.
I had a good season. Was lucky enough to win the best and fairest for Essendon, but it was purely off the back of this is fun. This is. Again, it took all the pressure off, and it was just have a run around. It was probably other life things. It was probably my least professional year. I was working in hospitality at the same time. I probably had my 18-year-old year that I never had. Some of those experiences that I never had because I was always in an elite sporting environment. So it was probably my most relaxed year in life, and just had a heap of fun. Went into the program with a coach, a coaching staff that really believed in me and were trusted me to do what I could do. And Brendan Major was the coach, and he I still thank him to this day for what he did for me, and just that belief and feeling valued in a team again, which I probably hadn't felt for a really long time, and credit him for my development and performance for Essendon through the VFL.
It speaks absolute volumes, doesn't it, about when you're playing freely instead of playing out of fear, and being in a team and environment and under a coach who really do just empower you as you are and don't put that extra pressure on you. Like me, myself, I know I went through a whole self-perpetuating cycle too when I wasn't performing. So then you go and think you have to do extras and you have to look more at your diet and this, that and the other. You burn yourself out and you play absolutely terribly. But if you just go out there and remember, why am I playing? It's for fun. And you just play so much better.
Yeah.
And there's just, I think there needs to be more emphasis on stripping everything back to fun still. I know the stakes are high, but really you play your best when you're having fun.
Oh, I think that's my biggest message, like, and the biggest thing I've learnt over all the years of sport and life. Like, if you're not enjoying it, like, don't do it. And yeah, as you say, obviously things come into it. There's high stakes and there's always going to be pressure, like that's sport, but to strip it back to, well, why am I doing it? It's because I love getting to do this. And that was the biggest thing for me in those years with Essendon at the VFL, was that I just felt, valued in the team, valued by my teammates, by the staff. And it's a huge credit to the program that Essendon created, that I was able, and many others were able to feel that way, and ultimately contributed to an undefeated season and then winning the premiership with that group a couple of years after the team not winning a game. And that was purely just from, I think, the culture that we built within that group.
Yeah. And then you went on to be a leader as well in the VFLW, didn't you?
Yeah. So was captain and then was a co-captain for a couple of years, including in our premiership winning side. And that was probably something that didn't, I think, particularly through hockey, it was always drilled into me like that I wasn't really a leader. Like I was a leader in my very early days of like under 12s hockey, but then like through the hockey roos was sort of never recognised in that position. And I think taught me a lot about like leadership styles, and that it's not a one size sort of fits all like kind of thing. Like I'm probably one, and still am, sort of one to lead like by actions rather than words. Like, I'm not going to be the loudest person, I'm not going to speak the most, but I will, put 100% into everything that I do. And yeah, that was, I guess, recognised at Essendon, and yeah, I was then put into that position of captain for being me and not trying to be someone else that I'm not. And that's probably where I was able to lean on other girls in the leadership group who were maybe more of that, vocal sort of dominant style. But again, it speaks to like the, recognising value and feeling appreciated, that they were able to appreciate me for, who I was and what I brought to the team, rather than me trying to be anything else. Yeah.
Well, pretty rare that on your team you have someone who has represented Australia from a young age. So, to have that professionalism, as you said, which is probably a big reason why North was so interested in you at the start. It's such a massive benefit having that professionalism and the discipline and how you approach, training, work ethic and everything. So I think, as you say, if you've got a team around you who support that and can complement the other leadership attributes with other team members, that's a really powerful combination.
Oh, 100%. I've always known that that's what I'm able to bring to the team. That's what I can support people with, and particularly, as I've become more senior and the younger players coming through. And I'm really grateful that was valued in the group.
Yeah. So then the roller coaster didn't end there, did it? Because you were the first Essendon AFLW player contracted. However, unfortunately, you tell the story.
Yeah. So, no, we obviously had a good season through that VFL, and I'd been playing really consistently, and was then super, fortunate to be rewarded with being the first ever AFLW signing for Essendon, which I think of all the things, is one of the things I'll look back to be really proud on. No one can ever take that away. So something that's really, really special. Was picked. We were still playing the VFL season, and as I mentioned, was co-captain. We were having an undefeated season. We got to the grand final. And yes, as sport goes, did my ACL in the final quarter of that grand final, which we won. But it was just like the absolute roller coaster of emotions. You've got the highs of winning a grand final and, doing it with this team that I've built so much with over the last few years, and then to do your ACL, and then to know what that means for the next year ahead. The AFLW season started a couple of months later, so knowing that would rule out that season was all kind of emotion. One of the hardest moments, and I spoke about with Rio, with the that jealousy of missing out. Essendon played their first AFLW game at Marvel Stadium against Hawthorn, and it was this big campaign to get it moved to Marvel, and it was such a bittersweet moment, watching the team run out through the banner and just wanting to be a part of that and not getting to be, and having been with Essendon for the 4 or so years leading up and having built so much with them, and then to not get to be part of that moment. And you put on that, the smile and everything, and the team won, and how exciting it was. But then getting in the car straight after and just bursting into tears of this is hard. It's all the things in sport, the highs and the lows of it.
Yeah. What did that year off teach you?
Yeah, it's I think you look back on it now, and I look back on it, and it's ultimately you're grateful for that experience. Again, it together with the non-selections and all those kind of lows of sport, that's another bit that teaches you that resilience piece, that to appreciate every moment that you get to be out there, because whether it's you're not picked or you're injured or whatever, this might be your last moment that you get to play. And again, appreciating the time that you get to be out there. And I think watching on certainly lit another fire in me that I really want to be playing, and what can I learn in this time off. Fortunately had a really good rehab, and we had an excellent still do have an excellent medical staff at Essendon who got me through it. Then getting to run out round 1 the following year just made it even more special, having overcome those, that setback.
Yeah. Speak about it a lot, that people who come back from long-term injuries, they just deserve it so much, and it's brilliant to see. And I think everyone can get around when they see someone returning back after a long injury, because it is isolating, it is emotional, it is, you feel all the emotions. So it's really special when you get to go out and have a great game. And
I think people don't realize it until you go through that yourself, and you can think that you can empathize and everything, but until you actually do it, you don't really know. And it's certainly, again, taught me a lot more about empathy for other players that I see do it. And unfortunately, we've had a number at Essendon this year, but you feel that emotion so much more strongly because you know what they're about to go through, and has hopefully taught me to be a better teammate as well, in how I can try to support them going through that journey.
And absolutely. And if you are an athlete going through a long-term injury, it's also your approach to it and your mindset. It is an opportunity for you to grow in other aspects, whether that be leadership, whether that how you can be a better teammate. You really need to try and look at the positive in a very shitty situation, because it is an opportunity to step back from sport, footy, soccer, whatever it is, and realize why you do it, for one, and, how you can actually improve if you do want to come back, or if you do want to take it as a sign that, maybe this is the time to step away and rebuild into something else.
Yeah, absolutely. It came back to that little wins motto that I had through hockey, that was all right, well, what are the wins that I can take out of this time, And as you say, you either go one way, you realise you don't want to do it anymore, or you really want to do it. And I really wanted to do it. And yeah, it was just finding the challenges along the way. Like I did a 150k bike ride with some of my friends, like, taught myself to muscle up on the rings. Like it was just like, what challenges can I set and achieve through this time to keep you mentally sane and like, motivated through experience. But it certainly, taught me a lot about myself and, about how I can be for others as well.
So obviously you came back from the ACL and you are still going from strength to strength really at 33. So what have you got to say to people out there that think age is a limiting factor? Well,
hopefully it's somewhat proof that that it is just a number. And as I said at the start, like I still feel like I'm very young in my football career, and I'm really proud that over my 3 AFLW seasons that I've been able to play at Essendon, I've continued to build and improve my game, and still feel like I have a lot to improve on, and that I can achieve in my football career. So I think ultimately it does all come back to enjoying it and having that love of the sport. And whilst that's still there and the body still holds up, there's no limit on sort of where you can go and the age. And I still feel like I've got a lot to give.
Right. So what are you working towards in the future? Have you got some goals set?
Well, it's hard because we've just come off our season, which we didn't unfortunately perform as well as we would have liked as a team, and that was disappointing after a couple of years of playing finals. So that hunger and desire to be back playing finals is certainly there, and being able to get the most out of the group as we can. I think things start to shift as you get older as well, to not only what you can get out of yourself, which will always be there, but how can I help get the most out of the group that we have? And that's, a big driver, I think, particularly after this season, is, all right, how do we achieve the most we can at Essendon? So, in the short term, it's taking a little bit of time to refresh, after a long sort of pre-season and season. And then, it won't be too long before we're sort of back into the focus of
getting next season. Watch this space, but So if you could give any advice to someone, especially a young female athlete, going through sort of what you did, that hockey route stage towards the end of your career there, as well as where you've just been delisted from North Melbourne, what advice would you give them?
I think we've probably touched on it, and it's just going back to that pure, why do you play sport? And you should be playing sport because you love sport. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned in both of those times, was being really honest with myself and how I was feeling and why I was doing what I was doing. And coming back to fundamentally, I want to play because I'm having a good time here. So I think that's my biggest thing in sport and life. Like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, don't do it anymore.
What would you go back and tell 16-year-old Georgia, knowing that you know now?
Well, I think that and to really appreciate, like, the times when the times are good, to really appreciate it, because there will be times when things aren't good, and those times make the good times even better. But I think just to not take anything for granted, and really appreciate that and the people that you have around you too, because particularly in sport and team sports, like, that is one of the great things about it, that you're surrounded with teammates, and that won't be forever, and to really appreciate it when you're there.
So when you say it won't be forever, do you know what a world post-elite athlete looks like for you?
I think that's probably something I'm still working out, and hopefully it's something I don't have to think about for a little while. But there'll always be that competitiveness in me, and whilst I'll probably have to shift to more of a full-time working life, I think it'll be triathlons, marathons, and big bike rides, some sort of competitive, something to keep the competitive juices flowing, but hopefully that's not for another couple of years.
Right, so you get straight into Ironman, you reckon?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Got to learn how to swim. So.
Oh, that's minor details. Brilliant. Well, Georgia, thank you so much for joining the 4DD podcast. And you are a testament to resilience and the courage that it does take to walk away from something that has been your identity for a long time and rebuild yourself in a whole new discipline, which was footy. And I'm so glad you did, as are so many young girls and fans, and you are absolutely fantastic at what you do, and thank you for being so vulnerable and open today.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.